But this is not a drill, ladies and gentlemen, and it is not Thursday, it's Friday. We're all here, the Shelter FootyCast, live from BackChat Studios. Skeeter, we made it. We got here.
Yeah, we got here, and so did Dashing Dan, who we've just had a couple of medical emergencies. But guess what? The band is back together for a huge weekend of sport.
R.I.P. Dan. He is alive. He is paneling. So Dan just, he's going all right. Just for everyone who is very interested in what we're talking about here. But we're a day late. We apologise, but we're going to move forward as if nothing's happened. Shelter FootyCast on socials. You can follow us there. Send us an email, footycast@shelterbrewing.com.au. This is Shelter's Summer of Sour. We still haven't released the Mark Reddings review, which I might add, it was a promo. It wasn't a review. We don't need a promo, Skate. All right, I want a review. Now, look, we'll release what you've done, but it's a promo. It's like a paid promo. Okay. Hi, I'm Mark Reddings. This is the Summer Sour. I want you to taste it. I want you to tell me what it tastes like. I want you to tell me what's in it, what it makes you feel. I want the emotion. I want you to tell us what that sour tastes like. That's what I want. I don't want a promo. We know how bloody good it is. I want you to tell us what a sour tastes like.
Oh, I thought I did a really good job.
Well, you did.
I tried really hard, Scully. I did. It's like when I say to my wife, I tried to, because I'm not great with gardening or mowing the lawn, as you know. I tried. I say, Vic, I'd really tried. And you've given me the same sort of feedback. Not good.
Sorry. I thought you came here to escape all of that, but clearly I'm just like your wife. Mate, you can win great prizes with the Shelter Summer of Sour. $600 exclusive escapes voucher. You can have Skeet mow your lawn with a Victor lawnmower, I believe. May or may not be true. There's heaps of beer, heaps of merch, all on the line. You can find it all at the website. Jump in and order that. Shelter born and brewed in Busselton. Let's get into it, Skeeter. There's been a little bit happening, so we've extended this as a bit of a 5-day break between our last podcast. I'll start out of AFL. Peter Bowl, his second test has come back clear. I believe it's come back negative. Yeah, negative.
Well, a non. There's a term for it. I've got to make sure. This is where Travis might come in to help us out here, but it's not non-indicative, but it doesn't apparently, according to Sport Integrity, clear him. So it's not a negative test per se, non-typical or atypical. So that is the terminology from memory, which still leaves them scope apparently to investigate whether this is a breach. Now, I think Peter's going to go through the process of even getting his parts of his liver or kidney examined in terms of his EPO levels.
Right.
So, look, it's a great result for Peter. We always say, I can't believe they've been done, or some people say, look, if you've been done, most times you're guilty. But there was just something with this one. I thought, wow, he's so adamant. It's out of season. A lot of factors made me think this guy's telling the truth. Now, maybe that's naive, but maybe because I've interviewed him and he's a nice guy that we probably feel that way.
I've got a pretty strong feeling on it. So Sports Integrity Australia, who run this in Australia, who are underneath WADA, so they run the WADA doping controls here in Australia. I think they need to get it right. They expect athletes to get it right every time. And as an athlete, if you ever stuff up, you're done. You get suspended. There's no questions asked. But if there's been a stuff up on the other side, Sports Integrity Australia, they need to hold themselves to the same standards they hold athletes. I think it looks like an embarrassment for them. If, in fact, he is innocent and it's been botched testing or they haven't tested it correctly or whatever the case may be, if he is actually innocent and he's been put through this personally, I think it's an absolute disgrace on the organisation.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I'm more thinking of the A sample. Why, and obviously it was leaked, but quite often that is released as a finding. In America, to my understanding, having read a little bit in the last week or two, is that they don't release the A sample.
No, you're not meant to in Australia either.
They wait, invariably those results come out. So,
which is bullshit.
Yeah, I agree totally. So, but as it stands, the A sample is kept to one side until the B sample is either confirmed or not. And that is obviously a massive issue for Peter moving forward, given his reputation over the past 3 weeks. You can't undo what's happened there. So, look, some people have asked, you go back to 1988, Ben Johnson, the 100 metres. He was tested on the day of the final of the 88 100-metre sprint, which he won, of course. The day later, the results came through. Bear in mind, there was no testing, to my understanding, of EPO back in 1988 and also in competition. So that whole process was expedited to get a result with medals and obviously the Olympics on the line. This was out of season, out of competition, so some differences there. But even the time frame of being tested to having his A sample result revealed, to me, shows a flaw in the system.
Yeah, but this is regular. This is what happens. You've seen this time and time again across every sport, not just athletics. You've seen it in footy. That look, I'm sure that they'll say, well, the testing procedures take time, and they need to make sure all their I's are dotted and T's are crossed. But I think it needs to be expedited from what it is, because in the end, you've got people's livelihoods on the line. So if it's the people's livelihoods' responsibility to not do drugs and to make sure they're competing clean, it's the officiating body's responsibility to make sure it's dealt with in a timely manner, which it's not being at the moment, and that this isn't the only example of it. Let's get out of this. You could have almost pressed the know your role, shut your mouth.
Know your role and shut your mouth.
Yeah, that's correct. We got a little bit out of our scope there,
Our
Skeeter.
lane was very much, it was a bit like being in India, where you're trying to drive and there's merging and not happening well.
Have you spent much time in India, Skeeter?
Never been there. I was listening to a bloke this morning saying he's in Delhi today, and it's just like a jigsaw puzzle trying to get to the ground, and it just sort of, they try and fit two cars into one lane, and it doesn't always work.
It doesn't sound like it would work. Let's get back into AFL then. What do you think about some of this stuff about the AFL players' salaries being indexed effectively and released? They haven't named anyone. Do you think AFL players' contracts should be released?
As a journalist, as a punter, as a footy fan,
Or as Mark Reddick?
I don't mind it. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with it. I mean, put it this way: it's common knowledge in the United States what players get. So I know some footballers are a bit gun shy about it. Should it be across the board put out there? Look, I just think we're a different breed to the Yanks, where they're more than happy to show their wealth, etc. But I've got no issue with it myself. I mean, this comes out every year through the Herald Sun or through an article which shows you the top, or the 12 millionaires, so to speak, in
But
footy.
they didn't name them, did they?
Well, yeah, of course they did. Lance Franklin.
So they named them.
No, they've named the likes of Lance Franklin.
I think they were
Nat
speculating,
Fyfe.
though.
Oh, well, speculation, but they're effectively saying that these are guys who are on $1 million. Some of them back-ended contracts,
Yes.
but they're still saying these are the guys, including Fyfe, including McGovern, Dusty. These are the guys that are millionaires in the AFL, and there's a dozen of them.
Would you name would you disclose your salary, what your earnings are?
I don't have a full-time job, so I'm not sure that's possible, Scully.
I think that's always the argument that I hear thrown back, and I'm being a little bit facetious, but would the regular person just come out and say, "Oh, this is what I earn per year"? Because that's what you're asking. That's what you're asking players to do. I know it's a public entertainment industry, but that is their job, and that's what they earn. And I reckon the answer is no. I don't think you'd disclose how much you earn a year, and I don't think many people would publicly. So I kind of agree with you. From a punter's point of view, it'd be interesting to know. But from a past player point of view and knowing a lot of players, I sort of think, well, what is the is the reason just because it's public, like it's a public entertainment thing and it's of public interest? Is that why? Because not many people would share that information.
No, that's true, but not many people are also in the area of elite athletes. And you think of the Premier League, you think of most sports around the world now, the salaries are pretty much out there, transparent.
You'd cop mate. Like I'm happy to say, like my last year on the list, like I was earning absolutely fuck all. Like I was pretty much paying to play there, and you'd have players like that in those situations where, yeah, you've got the $1 million players. Oh, how good's that? See how much Buddy Franklin's on. But then you'd have guys that have been playing in the league for a long time on not a lot of money, and you're sort of thinking, oh, it's a bit.
Well, the average player's getting $400,000 a year now. So if you counter that, I'm trying to think of. Steph Curry, $48 million a year. I'm just trying to think of Albo, the Prime Minister, getting $550,000 plus a year. So he's obviously a politician. We're paying his wage, so I think we deserve to know that.
Yes.
Look, I understand from a player's point of view, you're a bit reluctant to share that sort of stuff. End of the day, I don't think it's going away. There's always that thirst for information. And you're talking about how poorly you were paid, for instance, in your last year.
I had some great years as well. This isn't a sob story.
No, I'm saying, do you still go as hard when you know you're getting 2/5 of nothing? Do you still go as hard?
I reckon it plays into it a little bit. I mean, if I had periods in my career where I was on like a salary, like a base salary, and it was, if I played one game, I played 22 games, I got the same sort of money. And then I had parts during my career where I was on match payments, so you're motivated to get in the team more. So like towards the back end of the career, I was back on sort of base plus match payments. So it definitely, it did for me anyway. It is a motivator. Like I think anyone who says that the money isn't a motivator is probably lying. To be honest,
Oh, totally. I mean, it's any job. You try and put it onto other fields. If for instance I've been offered $50,000 to work for a company for 1 year, yet the year before for the same company I was paid $150.
Yeah.
Your appetite,
Start looking elsewhere.
Your appetite starts sort of waning a fraction. That's
correct.
human nature.
Yeah, correct. Talking about money, the profits of both the West Australian sides are being released. Fremantle are above where they thought they'd be. They've made almost $2.5 million in profit last year. West Coast, who kind of, I don't know, it's pretty common practice for West Coast, I believe, 3.5 million.
And that's on a poor year.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's interesting how those are made up. You probably have a better understanding of how that's sourced. Is that membership based? Is that sponsor based? Is that all the above? Is it the deals they do with the stadium? Is it?
It's revenue essentially. And look, essentially the Footy Commission owns both clubs. I think $2.25 million has to go to the commission through royalties. So at the moment, say taking Fremantle's position at the moment, 2.25 or thereabouts. They've made, I think, 2.4 or 2.5 or in that vicinity. So that surplus now, most of that money, or if not all of it, goes into a fund for them to work through community events and use that for areas that the West Coast Eagles have got obviously a lot in the kitty because of their profits and their wealth. So Fremantle now getting into the black in that position gives them scope to do more community and obviously hopefully build. It just shows you finishing fifth. And if they win a flag, dare I say, and Trevor Nisbet has said this to me, the chief executive, he said they're a sleeping giant of the competition. But they're already out there. They're already on the move. Financially, great result, and they've done a lot of things right.
If you think about what are the major revenue sources are for footy clubs, membership and sponsorship, more people are going to want to go to the footy and watch you play if you're playing well. It's just a fact, right? And sponsorship. If you imagine you're in the marketing department of a footy club and you're going to go and sit down in front of a potential sponsor who's never sponsored the club before, and just say right at this moment, if it was one room and there was one sponsor and there was a West Coast representative and a Fremantle representative, I know who you'd be signing with as the sponsor.
Well, the sell is easy because from a Fremantle perspective, the proof is there. What you've just done. West Coast, you've got to convince them that you're going to get back up.
West Coast would be relying on history,
exactly.
saying, look, we've been down before, but we've had a long period of success and we know how to do that. Fremantle would be saying, have a look at our list, have a look at how we play, have a look at the potential. We're going to win a premiership in the next 4 years. Get on now, otherwise it's going to be more expensive next year. So it's good to see that. And the last one I wanted to cover off the top of your Skeeter, been a bit of... look, I use the word carry on Twitter and I got a bit of flack over it, which I don't know, who cares really. But there's been a bit of attention around ticket prices here in Western Australia. So the AFL made the move in Melbourne to freeze prices at the MCG and Telstra Dome or whatever it's called, Etihad, Marvel, and to try to make it more affordable for families, etc. Well, that's what they've come out and said. Meanwhile, Western Australia... it's expensive. It's expensive to go to the footy, and there's been a lot of attention and public reaction to the fact that potentially tickets are getting too far gone for the regular punter to go and see the footy. Where do you sit on it first, and then I'll give you my thoughts.
Well, 5 years now, the AFL has had a freeze on prices at the G and Marvel, and the pandemic would have played a part in that, but 5 years, that's pretty good. So I think it's $27 single ticket to go to the G.
It's pretty cheap.
That's very cheap. $54 for 2 adults, 2 children. I think it's $18 for concession. That's really cheap. Now, bear in mind there are how many tenants of the MCG? There's let's say there's 10 clubs in Melbourne, and a lot of clubs play there intermittently or regularly, like Collingwood, Richmond, Melbourne.
Yeah.
Here, a bit like Adelaide, the costs are higher. Adelaide prices are more expensive than Port Adelaide. Possibly because of their history and what they've achieved over the journey. And let's speak specifically to WA. I've asked the question, is it Optus Stadium? I'm told not so much. There's a stadium deal in place, but I think it is, for instance, the West Coast Eagles, who, because of supply and demand with membership far outweighing seating at Optus, it becomes more expensive. That's like...
Because we're talking about general admin tickets here as well.
Yes.
That must be... It's not talking about membership.
No, true.
It's talking about the leftover amount, effectively.
But there's going to be... Again, I'm no ticket expert here, but there's... Obviously, with how many members have West Coast got? 90, 100?
Something like that.
Anyway, they've got far too many. If they're playing good footy, far too many members
Yep.
than seating, even for members. So whether, that plays into the costing of it. Again, we don't want to speak on behalf of the Eagles, but I'm sure that's a factor. And I think you've summed it up, and we've heard others do the same. Supply and demand is very much at the forefront of this discussion.
Well, mate, it's like people are blowing up about it, right? To me on Twitter, saying, you silver spoon, or says someone who doesn't have to pay for tickets, or it's none of that. It's literally an open market that's being dictated by supply and demand, right? So there's a low supply of tickets available to West Coast games, and you can say, oh, well, they didn't play well last year. They've still got a shitload of members, and people still want to go watch them play.
Is a frustration though?
Yeah,
if you're a member, you don't go.
Yeah, correct. So that's where I think there's so it's an open market, supply demand. There's a low supply, there's a high demand. People are it's a business. Sport is a business. I say it all the time. Money dictates everything. You can say what you like. You can say it's about the culture and it's about the fans. It's not. It's about money. And I think that's a good thing? No, but that's just how it is. I'm sorry. It's a supply and demand issue. There's big issues in it though. When West Coast have got 100,000 members, yet they get 30,000 people going to a game. That's an issue. Now in America, they've got StubHub, they've got ticket like effectively like ticket scale, like not you can resell your tickets, right?
And you can do that at the Eagles, surely.
Well, you can put them back into the pool, and you don't get back the full price of that ticket. You get a percentage back. Off your membership of the next year. Someone was saying this on Twitter, like you don't back to the footy club, I believe. Okay. So basically, the system currently for members who don't want to go is too hard, and so they just go, you know what, I'm just not going to go. Just can't be bothered dealing with it. Then there needs to be some sort of open platform where members can sell their tickets. I would hope. Potentially not a bidding system where it just gets – that would make prices even more expensive.
But at sale price?
Correct. If you could just resell them at what –
Face value.
Yeah, face value. I think there should be – I think that would fix it a little bit. But in saying that, I think prices are still going to be high. There's still a lack of seats at a venue that's 60,000 and in a state with two teams. It's a very different situation to Melbourne where there's 8 teams and there's 100,000 seats at the MCG. They need to make it cheap, otherwise people will not go. Whereas here, you can say what you like, you can talk about blue collar, and you can talk about all that, and I do understand that, but unfortunately, there's demand still.
And supply and demand, to put it into context as well, go across to other sports around the world. Manchester United, for instance, Old Trafford, seats 60, 70,000, whatever it is. I mean, every week there's a home game. Manchester United supporters are missing out on going.
There was some interesting comments around that as well, and it's potentially look. None of this is a good thing either. I guess I'm just trying to say how it is. I'm not necessarily saying it's a good thing. Arsenal, Man U, Man City, Chelsea, they've lost a lot of the real fans because it's just you cannot. It's just middle class and above. You can't go to the soccer anymore. So I hope we don't get to that stage, but. That's usually how markets are dictated. So unless you can bring somewhere in where you can give access to people that can't necessarily afford it, I don't know what the fix is. The
upside is, I suppose, if you're looking at going to the footy in Perth, you're playing slightly overs, is that you are going to, 5 years in, a facility that is regarded worldwide as elite. Yep. Still. So it's one of the best in Australia, if not the best. And so you're paying a bit more, but you're also going to a venue that is pretty special.
Yep, I like it. Mark Reddings, Will Schofield, Shelter FootyCast. And just a bit of a reminder after that nice little bit of music by the Southern River Band. We are or will be on our new feed. There's been some teething issues, I believe. There should be some sort of new feed.
I haven't been running it, by the way. That's not one of his teething issues.
Skeeter's had his hands all over the computer. No, I don't know. It just takes some time sometimes. So just, we'll push it on social. Yeah. Once it's official, I'll just keep reminding you we will be moving to another feed. But in the meantime, just stay where you are. You're right here. Don't worry about it. Dan will sort it out. Skeeter will sort it out. Don't worry about it. Imagine what you'd be doing, seriously. Let's have a little focus on West Coast and Fremantle. Start with Fremantle. They've left a rookie spot open, so potentially to use at the mid-season draft. They were trialling out brother of Sarong.
Liam Sarong,
yep.
Sam Stubbs.
Yep.
I can't remember. I think we spoke about this on Monday. I said it was really 50-50 whether they were going to pick them up. The gut feeling was maybe not because they hadn't pulled the trigger. So, yeah, they're going to leave that open, and maybe mid-season draft is...
You heard any word on captaincy?
Nothing really. I interviewed Simon Garlick on radio, and that process is still possibly a week or two away, which, we're getting deep into February when that happens.
I heard David Mundy speak on 6PR.
Yeah, same.
I would just,
Alex Pearce.
And he had him clearly ahead. So I tended... you and I can sit here and talk as much shit as talk as much shit as
know your role and shut your mouth.
That's right. We can just talk all about it. If you got someone like Dave Mundy, who's been in the Wolves, who's been a leader,
and may have just heard something just along the way.
He says Alex Pearce will be. He said if I was picking it, I'd be picking Alex Pearce.
Yeah, what would he know?
What would you and I know? Seriously. So I think that's what is it? Fait du complet? Is that what it is? You say it all the time. I don't know. Fait du complet? Is it?
Just keep that up.
Know your role and shut your mouth.
Don't speak French.
What is it? Yeah, isn't that it or not? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do, and I've actually, the term just slipped. I know I say it quite a lot. Well, lay
down
no,
I'm trying to. It's something. It's like fait du complet. It's like the. Get on you, boys. All right, Dan, fucking lay down in the shower next time. Stay there, won't you? Let's see. Dan's lost the plot. Dan's lost the plot. Skee's lost the plot. Hey? Would you like me to give French lessons?
That was a faux pas you just delivered, by the way.
Petit miam. It's French for yum. Okay. Fremantle.
Today, intra-club, the last one, of course, they've got Adelaide, then Port Adelaide in a couple of scratchies. Sean Darcy's gone back east, a family bereavement, so not involved today. But interesting, Luke Jackson, theory is that he's going to go forward and obviously try and see if there's some nice synergy with him and Fifey. Obviously, they're trying to find a replacement for Lob. Taberner, if he's fit, becomes the main man.
I've heard Taberner's been training well. I've always rated him really highly, Taberner, and he was dropped at stages last year, which is a real confidence thing, because when I've played on him and when I've seen him play well, like, he's a very, very good player. So I think people are sleeping a little bit on Matty Taberner, and he'll be a really important player for them. And if he can get his confidence up, I think that'll really change their stuff.
He looks like one of those players that, confidence is huge for everyone in life, but you can see him on a footy field if he looks comfortable and gets an early touch, an early goal.
He's a gun, mate. He takes big contested marks. He's really fit. He's fast. He could be anything. And so Freo have him sitting right there.
But he cops a lot of flack. But you know what?
Why is that?
Off the top of my head, I think he was like pick 60. He was
like a rookie selection.
He was taken out of nowhere. Problem is, you show some potential. People forget your number, which is good and bad. Or not so good if you're an early draft pick. They always say they expect. But with him, he's come from literally nowhere, and he's forged a pretty good career. If he can just stay sound,
you just don't hear many people talking about him. And I've literally played with him, bloke, and I think he's a very good player. So Freo aren't without forward stock. So if they could get him, Fife, and a Jackson floating through there, that's a forward line. Like, that's a proper forward line.
True.
Talking about the forward line, let's move to the back line. Brendan Cox has raised the eyebrows of a few, including Kane Corns. Players shouldn't be participating in extreme sports, says Kane. Brendan Cox has hurt his knee skateboarding. Scab on his knee, got infected knee. I was asked about this during the week. I tend to lean towards people are allowed to make mistakes, and in hindsight, and we're talking about it right now, does it look like an intelligent mistake? No, it doesn't. But you could be... I find it difficult to draw a line between what players should and shouldn't be doing. There's obvious clarity between, big moments. You shouldn't be... I don't know. There's things you shouldn't be doing. Driving a race car, probably, for instance, or things that
water
are like...
skiing.
Yeah, like... Things that are, but if you're just rolling down the South Beach down in Fremantle and you're going 5 k's an hour and you clip a rock and then fall off a skateboard, or if you're cycling, like a lot of players cycle. I don't think clubs ban cycling, but
there's a slight element. Look,
surfing, a lot of guys surf. You can hurt yourself really badly surfing. I think it's difficult to rule things out,
and
I'll be leaning on.
I'll take the club side of view here.
Okay,
you're paying good money to players, and if you are, a skateboarding. I mean, that to me, that's is he 12? I mean, I don't know how many blokes. No, I love Brendan Cox. But who skateboards in the mid-20s? Seriously.
Imagine Skeeter on a skateboard.
You would have been a skater boy going back in the day.
No, I actually can't skate to save my life, and I would never get on one. And look, I can agree with you, but people are allowed to make mistakes, right? And club, Fremantle, fair enough. And you can come in and say, my full responsibility, I take ownership, blah, blah, blah. If he does it again, like that's when you go, right, then the checkbook's getting torn up and you start losing some money. But you're allowed to make mistakes. It was the same thing with the West Coast guys that went to Hippie Club last year. You're allowed to stuff up, right?
I agree.
And the club is allowed to say, hey, you shouldn't do that. But in the end, you need to support them. I don't think there should be bans around extreme sports, but I can also see the same side as the club and others.
And I think you put it in a pretty good context. I think the Hippie Club going out, young blokes, not at a time when they shouldn't have, and Brendan Cox, I put them not about it. I know the Hippie Club copped a lot of grief, particularly given what's happened with COVID, but realistically,
I'll tell you what, I don't reckon you'll see Brendan Cox cruising around his skateboard anytime soon. He'd be feeling sick because,
he's going to play round one, so it's all good.
Without knowing what happened, he would have come off, hurt his knee, and he would have been strapping it up, trying to keep it away, and then it would have got infected, and he would have been, oh, fuck, what's going on here? He'd be feeling sick. What about West Coast, up the road? Jack Darling, positive news. His syndesmosis injury isn't as feared, which can be a season-long injury. It can be a sort of 16-week injury. So they haven't done surgery, which is I say is a positive thing, but I've seen guys not have surgery, and it's not an easy injury to work through. It's not like a hamstring, which is just a regular 3-week, 4-week, and then you can just, you never do your hammy again all season. Ankles can hang around, they can linger. You sometimes have to put some local anaesthetic into it, which makes it worse in the long run. You're weak, so you're not moving as well. So it's a positive outcome, but it's not a positive injury. And he's a really important player to West Coast.
Absolutely, and not the only Jack that's gone down this week. Jack Williams,
yes,
ruptured spleen. So that's not great news for the young bloke. It's not season ending, but gee whiz, it puts you behind the 8 ball. And I've seen a bit of him commentated some of his work at Colts for East Fremantle. Haven't seen how physically he's grown, but there's reports that he's just maturing nicely. So that's a bit of a setback for him. But so tonight there's going to be some interesting players who get some minutes. Campbell Chesser, I believe, will get some.
Is this an open session?
Not sure if it's open or not, to be honest. It is intra-club, but I know today Fremantle were opening the doors for half an hour to the media, which I assume is also the public.
Get to watch them warm up and then get
Probably,
out of there.
yeah. Well, the first quarter.
Okay,
so there's that. West Coast tonight, not sure, but very interested to find out how Ruben Jimby goes, Elijah Hewitt, Noah Long, because essentially, as Adam Simpson suggested, going back to 2018, that there's likely to be some first gamers against North Melbourne.
Yep.
And tonight is not going to be defining, but it's certainly going to help them get selected for next week's game against Port Adelaide, which you and I are going to do some work on.
Yeah,
then Adelaide.
Tell you what, Shelter FootyCast taking over Fox Footy.
Kojo, thank you very much. So, yeah, tonight's I'm sure there'll be a couple. Would you be nervous in an intra-club like this as a young bloke?
Yeah,
like
young,
Jimby?
yeah, absolutely, young guys, because it's the first real one. Like you and I have been jammering on now for 6 weeks about footy stuff. But this is a real test because real minutes, real umpires. You do a full prep. Simo even used to have us, running out to the music we'd run out to for West Coast. So it's meant to, you're meant to prepare like a game. Sometimes with training, you hydrate and you get your right food into you, but you don't prepare like a game. This is a game prep. So all week they would have been doing oppo meetings. That it's to give the young guys a look at what it looks like at AFL level. So yeah, for sure. I remember some of my first games in this sort of scenario. I remember playing at Subi Oval, my first intra-club game, and I was playing on guys like Adam Hunter and Ash Hansen. I played on, and I stuffed something up, and Darren Glass,
Rip one?
Yeah, I still remember that. It was my first one, and he was like, I let my man fly across the pack. I didn't hold him down. He's like, whose man was that? Me. And he realised I was sort of, and he's like, you can't ever do that. So I never forgot.
But
I never forgot, and I don't reckon my man ever flew across the pack ever again.
Yeah.
So you can learn things in these sorts of games that you can't learn at training because it's, in training, your man leaves you, flies off the pack, does something. It's like, okay, just start the drill again and it's all good. But in a game, it's one moment. That's why there's such a difference between training and games, because training, you just get to start the drill again, you get another chance. That's why it's good to train. Games, you either do it or you don't. You have one opportunity for moments.
And why is it defenders are so feisty? I've got to say, a bloke called Denver Granger Barris,
Yes.
who got involved at Hawthorn
I like
during the
that.
week, a bit of push and shove. And
WA boy.
WA, very interesting story, because he grew up in the hills.
Ian, father, yes.
Gooseberry Hill, he grew up, and I had a chat with him a couple of years ago doing an interview. I said, whereabouts in Gooseberry? He said, Graham Road. I said, what number? He said, 65 Graham. I said, mate, that's where I lived before you. So,
shit.
the young man has just taken over my bedroom probably at some stage, and but really good fella, like him, and he showed a bit of spite or spirit, should I say, during the week.
So backs why they're so grumpy. Mate, it's everyone else's fault. That's why midfield's fault, forward's fault, umpire's fault. It's never the backman's fault. So you got to blame everyone else. I did see that, and I like what I saw there. He's got a lovely old man, Ian. Did some dealings with him during my career, and I actually ran a junior clinic with Denver. Him as like a 12-year-old, and not that he credits all of his success to anything that I ever did for him, but we still talk about that on socials every now and then. I remember that time he came and ran the drill down with us, and he was this lanky, he's got red hair, he's lanky kid, and I remember thinking like, oh, this kid looks like he can play
as well.
Yeah, and he's like a 12-year-old, and he was sort of, he's competitive, but 12 years old, you can't tell.
But mate, it reminds me of the story. I can't even remember the kid's name from WA, but got to present Adam Goods with the medal in a grand final. Also, Joel Selwood become really good. Joel Selwood, draftee. I'm trying to think. It wasn't Jimby, was it? Was it Buslinger?
Yeah, Buslinger.
Buslinger.
Yeah. Well done. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah. But you're not Joel Selwood, obviously.
No, correct.
Wow,
You mentioned Ruben Jimmy's. No, did you see he got hypnotised during the week? Did you see
that?
Is there a vision of it?
I think there's vision. Have you ever been hypnotised?
That's what I wanted to ask you, and probably finish. We got a couple of other things to talk about. I have been hypnotised.
And fair dinkum?
Yeah, proper. Went under on a footy trip in Darwin, and I was cooked for the rest of the evening.
Really?
Like, mate, it rattled my soul.
But don't you have to let yourself be involved?
Correct. And you know what's going on. Like, when you see the stuff and you're like, there's no way they don't. You know what's happening, but your mind's almost like, it's like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Like, I'll do that. And yeah, I gave birth to someone, to a child on stage in front of all the boys. It's fucking funny. But like, I didn't enjoy the experience at all. I was completely cooked for the rest of the night. I pretty much had to go home. Like, after a few more beers, I could just ruin my night. Yeah, I was not happy with it. Anyway,
Ruben Jimby and whoever else jumped up on stage with Matty Hales, well played.
We've got about 2 or 3 minutes left. Who's going to do this? Will Schofield, Mark Redding's Shelter FootyCast. There's a couple of rapid fires around the other sports. The Glory, they host the Central Coast Mariners this Saturday. They need to win to have much of a chance to make it this year. What about the golf, Skeeter? You been getting into the golf?
Not so much with Tiger Woods making his comeback today. 47 years of age. Hasn't played, I guess, for close to 3 years in a proper tournament. Started off okay.
Is that the car accident? This is after that car accident, right?
Yeah, but he's been around, but not. This is like his. The big comeback.
Right,
and of course, it comes on the same week, and I haven't watched it, but I definitely will. Netflix have put out a doco like Drive to Survive and the tennis one, saying it's full swing, I think it is. And I spoke to Mark Allen, who's a golfing aficionado. He reckons it's super. So if you get the chance to have a look at that.
A bit like Drive to Survive?
Yeah, something like that. And look, I'm not a motor racing person. I'm not a golfing person per se, but obviously the Drive to Survive stuff was really insightful. And I'm told this one's got like the private planes, behind the scenes, the women, all that stuff, the parties. Giddy up.
Oh, boy. Cricket starts today, doesn't it?
Midday. It starts today, mate. This is a defining test match for Pat Cummins. This will be his 15th test. He's lost one, so the numbers have been pretty good. But
is he going to be playing?
Yeah, of course he's going to play. I read somewhere, will he be dropped? What a load of horseshit. Seriously. Some people, a bloke was from SEN, should he be dropped? No, he shouldn't be dropped. Pat Cummins is an elite cricketer. He'll be playing in the Test match. The question is if Cam Green plays, if he's fit enough with his finger.
Yes.
Batting in the nets, struggled a little bit, I believe, with the fast bowling. But if he can play, it just opens up the Australian side because they can then play 3 spinners if required. Kuhnman's gone over there to help out Murphy and Lyon. Head's got to replace Renshaw in that lineup. I mean, Hanscom, I'm not sure Hanscom's a Test player, but over there I think they'll persist with him. Warner will definitely play, but it all depends. I think Cam Green is the key to whether Australia can pick the side that they want, win the toss. I know they lost after batting first, but they've got to do the same here in Delhi, make a score, albeit Ashwin's the gun spinner. His average at that venue in Test cricket is 12, which means he gets wickets pretty regularly.
Is that every 12 runs he takes a wicket? Is that what that means?
Essentially, yeah.
Haven't Australia not won at this ground for like a long time?
Lots of countries don't win in India, so let's put that into context. And while we're there, I know this is just very quickly on cricket. Yeah. England, 325 off, I think, 50 overs against New Zealand on day one. They are taking Test cricket into a new stratosphere with their attacking nature.
So I saw they retired after 55.
Declared. So 9 down.
Sorry, declared.
Day-night match. Jimmy Anderson comes on, takes a couple of poles, but they are turning Test cricket on its head, which sets it up beautifully for the Ashes. But the Poms, I hate seeing them win, but they're very good to watch.
I've always wondered why this doesn't happen. Like why in Test cricket with the fields how they are, why don't they
tee off more?
Yeah, well, tee off.
No, well that's a bit what Brendan McCallum and Ben Stokes have instigated. The risk versus reward, they're taking it on, it's paying dividends.
Yeah, I will finish with this. If Travis Head doesn't play, I will spew up.
Yeah.
I've had enough of this Australian cricket team. If you can't play the number 4 Test batter, then the bloke who won Player of the Series,
he almost won Player of the Series. He should have been. He was basically the Player of the Summer, arguably
worldwide, mate. Like if you can't get that person into a team, I don't give you shit if you're playing.
His record in the subcontinent hasn't been
who
great.
cares,
but guess
mate?
What? Matthew Hayden's record wasn't great.
What
Damien
about the
Martin
rest of the
wasn't
team
either.
playing right? How's Dave Warner going?
No, I agree totally. He'll be playing. We'll put this. If he doesn't,
and
they get rolled,
live spew up session here on the show FootyCast. I tell you what, it's going to be a bloody good listening if we can do that. Summer of Sour, we're going to get a review from you, Skeeter. I promise we're going to do it.
As opposed to a promo.
Yes, correct. But that's all right.
I need another can then. I've only got one can. I drank that on Saturday before I went to see Sting.
Well, how was it?
It was great. He was 71 years of age. I know that's old.
No,
for you.
I don't give a shit about Sting. It's the sour.
The sour was good. I'll tell you what, though. In all honesty, it took the first couple of sips. It's an unusual taste to.
Here we go. This is good.
Absorb. By the end of the can.
You want another one?
Yeah, I did. I swear I did. It had grown on me because it's something.
You never had a sour. That's why I want to know.
It certainly was something that the more I drank of it, the more I thought, this is the taste buds got to learn what the heck they were doing. In the end, Scully, it was a fait accompli.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to say. You say it all the time.
You absolute numpty.
Socials, Shelter FootyCast. Follow us over there. Find us on YouTube. Listen to us as a podcast. We'll be on our feed when Skeeter sorts it out. So, look, it could be in 2024, to be honest. Mate, it's been fun. See you next week.
Au revoir.